So it's today in the shop time. Happy Thanksgiving today in the shop time. And I want to put my KTM 500 back together because I'm ready to do this. So I will show you sort of what I've got, what I'm looking at. And I have to go click a button over here to make it work. As usual, technical difficulties. This is dirt bikes test today in the shop. And we're looking at a KTM 500 top end that's all apart. There it is right over there. And I'll show you where we're at because I'm basically kind of ready to put it back all together, or mostly ready to put it back together. And so here is sort of where we're at. I took it apart because it was making a knock, a high load knock. Measurements determined that the piston to cylinder was just a little bit out of spec. Ring gap was good. Everything was good. Wasn't burning oil. It was running fine. Everything was good. Just a noise that was a little concerning. So I took it apart and I showed kind of how I measured the gap. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, a few people commenting on like, is that how you do it? Yeah, that's exactly how I do it. I've been doing it like that for years. And if you watch in one of the other videos, it will probably say KTM 500 rebuild or something. You can check it out. But anyways, so here's where I'm at. Time to go back together. So I'm using a Wiseco piston and the Wiseco gasket set, which is right over here, as you can see. And here is, so this kit comes with everything. It comes with valve guide seals, the gaskets you'll need. The only thing it doesn't really come with is the gasket on the valve cover, which is reusable. You can clean that thing up and generally it works just fine. So I'm going to use all the Wiseco stuff. It's probably, I think it's the first time I've used Wiseco in a KTM 500, so I will be able to check the durability and stuff. I've got a couple other long-term tests running this stuff. So what I always do is I checked, and I did in the other video, we checked the skirt to the cylinder wall clearance, and now I'm ready to go back together. I always like to check the ring-in gap, and so there's a formula. Let me get this here. As you can see, there's lots of information about piston rings. There's a formula that tells you how to multiply it, get it to the ring-in gap. You slide your ring inside there with your piston, and I think you can see down in there. And you put your feeler gauge in there, and you check your ring-in gap, which mine's right on. Maybe just a tad on the tight side, just a little bit on the tight side, but not too much. And when you are doing this, a couple other things, and this is the way that I do it. Trust me, I'm not building a race motor here. I am not a race motor mechanic, although I have built a lot of race motors and I know how to do it, and I've watched some of the best in the world do it. So when this ring goes on this piston, for instance, so the ring-in gap's good, the piston clearance is good. Generally speaking, the letter goes up when you are working on these things. So letter up, and then the other way you can tell is like the top ring generally has a bevel up on the top edge, and like if there was a second ring, the bevel would be on the bottom. These are just things about piston rings, but the instructions will tell you to generally put the letter up, which I just did, and then depending on how you want to orientate this, my oil ring openings are up here, and then I'm going to have that in the back, and basically it's going to go in. And those, they migrate around as you're doing stuff. Good, I don't drop that on the floor, right? So that's all set and ready to go. Cylinder's all cleaned up, ready to go. I've lubed up the pin, although it doesn't look like there's lube on it. I put assembly lube on it and slid it through the rod. Now again, it's a 473 hour. I could go check 463. I have it written down over there. Hour motor. So this is all ready to go. I pre-installed the circlip on the one side. So I can just take this piston over, set it in there. It actually goes that way because the bike's facing that way. And then the pin, I can work it from the non-cam side. So everything's all clean. And then what about the cylinder head? So because I'm trying to determine where that knot came from, I didn't do a thing to the cylinder head. There's a little bit of assembly lube on the cam bearings in here. A little bit of assembly lube here. Everything was perfectly in spec. So I'm just going to bolt this thing back together, just drop it right back on top. I did do what I'll call the poor man's check to see. I squirted contact cleaner or parts cleaner in here and saw if it dripped out, which it didn't. As quote kind of a leak down ish test, but the bike was running fine. I had no issues with the bike running, and that's sort of where we're at with this project. All this stuff as it goes back in will get cleaned properly. Like I said, cylinders clean, head's basically ready to go back on. I'll wipe it down one more time before we do that, and then we start putting it back onto the bike over here. So that is where we're at with this particular project. Another thing people were saying was the knock was coming from your clutch. I don't think so, because I had multiple times replaced the clutch dampers. So these guys right here. But just in case, I have a clutch damper kit. This is a Recluse one that I've had really good luck with using these before. You just buy them. They're I would say that these last 10 to 25% longer than the stock KTM ones, in my experience, from what I can tell without super scientific knowledge. But anyways, that's all ready to go back in. But again, like I said, showed in the other video, that clutch is in really good shape. Everything is really good. So if you have any questions or comments, I'm going to go run over to the screen and see if I can see if we have any comments in the chat. I can answer those. Even if it's not live anymore, you can put them in the chat. We go back and get them on Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Of course, this episode of Today in the Shop would not be possible without some of our awesome sponsors. That's Yamaha, that's Climb, companies like Bulletproof Designs, Double Take Mirrors, Fasst Company, makers of the Flex handlebars. And my wrists are going to love those things when I go riding all Thanksgiving weekend. So I hope you have a great turkey day. I hope my bike is back together. If it's running, maybe I'll post on one of those, what do they call them, social medias, and tell you how it's going. But with that, we will see you out on the trail, I guess. I'm going to go check for questions right now and see how we're doing over here, because I will answer your questions live, just like it says on the thing here. See, pulling it up. Oh, I might not be able to see them on that one. I might have to go to this one over here. So let's see here. I'm not seeing them in that one. I'll go to here. I'll go here. Yeah. Mark Daniels, happy Thanksgiving. Yes. Happy Thanksgiving back to you. And yeah, no other questions on this stuff, but hopefully the shop will be cleaned out with a bunch of good running dirt bikes, and we'll see you as soon as we can. So thanks, everybody.